This week's episode of I Was a Teenage Film Snob is not brought to you by a licensed therapist. Welcome to I Was a Teenage Film Snob. I'm James Chalmers, your friendly neighborhood film snob, and this is episode 97 of the podcast. We are mere weeks away from celebrating episode 100, and then I have to figure out what we do with the show after that.
Yeah.
I got a couple of plans. Had a week off last week due to me losing the race and finally catching COVID. I dodged that thing for 4.5 years, but it did finally catch up with me, so I just was not really in a position to do any recording. Neither was my planned co-host, who's with me tonight, and you would have heard her already. I don't know why I'm playing games. It's Tina.
Yeah.
Welcome back to the
Hello.
show, Tina. How are
Yeah,
you?
isn't it ridiculous that we got COVID 4 years? Who gets COVID 4 years after for the first time?
It took us we did such a good job of avoiding it.
I don't know how, because I'm a school teacher.
Yeah, I know how during the early days, I know because we were very strict. So,
Yeah.
I was one of those people who was just like, whatever the government says, yes, I'll just do it. Because I just didn't want to get it. Because, obviously you were pregnant during the first
Yeah.
lockdown and gave birth during that lockdown as well. So we were just, on high alert. We were like, we can't let it happen. We can't get sick. And we did a really good job for a long time. And then a couple of things could have caused it. I know that your parents caught COVID, so we might have gotten it through them. I went to the movies the weekend before we tested positive, so maybe I got it from there.
So we went to kinder.
So we went to kinder. I went to the hospital, which we'll talk about in a moment. I thought about that. I was like, well, I was in a waiting room for
That's true.
hours. Maybe I
Yeah,
got it
that's
there.
So we got it before all of us, though.
Well, she was symptomatic and testing positive before all of
Mm.
us. We could have all had it around the same time. Because she had symptoms for a day.
Yeah.
She's got something now, but
I think it's just the leftover. That's
yeah,
why.
but
Because I'm the same. I'm negative, but I feel like absolute junk.
me too. I'm testing negative, and we all got different symptoms as well,
Yeah.
which was interesting. It's kind of a fact, without going too deep into it, it's kind of a fascinating illness because it doesn't just if you get the flu, or a head cold,
Mm.
you're going to get the same kind of symptoms. If you get
Yeah.
gastro, you're going to get the same symptoms. Everyone's going to get the same symptoms.
Yeah.
With COVID, all three of us had different symptoms.
Yeah, I can't taste anything.
Yeah.
You and Zoe can taste everything.
Yeah.
Me and Zoe have a blocked nose. You don't have a blocked nose.
I didn't get a single sinus thing. I've had a little bit of a cough and I've had a little bit of a sniffle, but mine was all in my head. I had brain fog, which I still have.
Mm.
I was exhausted, which I still am, and really bad muscle aches, really bad. And I don't mean I've got a cramp. I meant could not sleep due to the agony of this lower back pain.
Yeah.
Which was kind of insane. So much that I couldn't work. I was in too much pain. I couldn't even sit up. I had to lie down.
Mm.
And because we all had it at the same time, you and I had to kind of rotate on shifts and be
Yeah.
and I felt awful lying in bed because I'm I should be out there. But as soon as I stood up, I was walking like my 90-year-old nana.
Yeah.
I just hobbled over. So it's been an interesting couple of weeks, and it did prevent us from recording last week, but that's okay. I think we've actually only missed 2 episodes for the entire year, which
Oh wow.
ain't half bad.
Yeah, that's great.
Second half of the year's going to be interesting. We're going to talk more about that probably after episode 100. We'll talk more about what's going on there. But so far it's been a pretty consistent year, which has been good. A little bit of housekeeping, I guess, before we jump into the topic of the day, but also I want to talk movies with you. Before that housekeeping, first of all, this week we hit 1,500 streams.
Oh, fantastic.
Which is pretty cool, considering there's no new episode last week.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm not even kidding. We had 80 listens in 3 days or something. It was insane.
Brilliant.
Which doesn't sound like a lot. If people think about big podcasts or kind of big mainstream media, 80 is nothing. 1,500 is nothing. But for an independent podcast that has no funding, promotional backing, I'm not part of a network. I don't have it's just me. Me and my computer in the garage most of the time. Tonight we're not the garage. It's too cold for that. And obviously, I'm not discounting all the help that I get from everyone who comes on the show. Like, obviously, that's wonderful, and they promote it and stuff like that. But like, what I mean is, like, we're not funded by a studio. We're not
Yeah.
celebrities. So to get 1,500 streams is kind of blowing my mind. Like, did you ever think the show would have got 1,500 listens?
No.
Yeah, like me, like that's okay. Like me either. Like I didn't think I made a joke about it back on. I think it was the 1 year anniversary. Maybe it was the 2 year anniversary. I can't remember now. One of the anniversary shows. I was saying I didn't think we'd get more than 10 episodes. Like it was my first time doing a podcast by myself. Like I've done shows in the past with you and Nick and stuff like that. And because it was a team, like it was easier to keep the momentum going. Because if I was having like an off week, someone else would have an idea. But for this, it's like it's me driving it all. So I was like, 10 episodes, we're probably gonna be done. But we're weeks away from episode 100.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think last I checked, it was like 1,530 streams. So like it's even jumped up since we hit 1,500 the other day, which is again insane to me that we have that many streams. And even if it was just one new person found the show, like that means one person has listened to like 200 hours of podcast because
Yeah.
they're not short episodes.
No, they're not.
Like if they listened to 80 episodes, it wasn't 80 hours. Like some of them might have been an hour long. A couple of the more recent ones have been less than an hour because it's me by myself. But generally, you're looking at 90 minutes to 2 hours minimum for episodes.
Yeah.
And most new guests, 2 hours plus. Like if you're a first time guest, I spend a lot of time asking questions about you and stuff like that. So if you listen to a Tina episode, maybe an hour because you like we know each other so well. It's like, we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
But I thought that was pretty cool.
No, that's awesome. That's fantastic. You should feel really proud.
I am proud. It was all me. Oh, no, not even a little bit. And the other bit of housekeeping, I just teased it before, episode 100 around the corner. How are you feeling? You got a big...
I'm really excited. I'm really looking forward to it.
Got a big role.
I get to flex some skills.
Well, it'll be interesting. And we will, spoiler alert, I might as well tell people now, episode 101 is going to be kind of like our commentary on the process of episode 100.
Oh, okay, cool.
So we'll talk about it because we haven't started recording yet, but I have finished the script for the radio play. I've got some feedback from some of our international guests because they won't be recording with us. Scheduling is just going to be too insane for that. So the way that I wrote it was that all the Australian guests will record live with you over Zoom, and then I'll cut it all together as one big show.
Yeah.
But the Americans, like you're in the scenes, but you have no dialogue. So because it was going to be like trying to schedule with all these different states in America. All these different podcasts.
That's
like
too hard.
Yeah, and like because I normally record with American guests, like 6 or 7 a.m. in the morning, and like that's prime Zoe time. There's no way we can make it work. So, but I wanted to get them involved. So I was like, I'll write in a way that you are in the scenes, but you won't have any dialogue. Because I could have also just cut them together, so like record your dialogue separately and cut it together, but that's too much work. Like even for episode 100, that's too much work. But the reason I brought that up is I've sent the scripts out to all of the American guests, and 3 out of 4 have already messaged me back, and the general consensus is that it's very funny, and they really like it. So that's a good sign.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, you're going to be kind of front and center. You're going to be doing all the heavy lifting. So how do you feel about that?
I'm really excited for it. I'm really looking forward to it. I really like voicing stuff.
Yeah.
Like I love doing like reading a script and then coming up with like the way I'm gonna phrase lines and stuff like that. So no, I'm really looking forward to it.
It'll be interesting because it's actually going to be the first time, technically, officially, that you've read anything I've written for a production. Because I wrote a lot of movies back in the day, like in my 20s and stuff like that, and we did a lot of roundtables. Like there were multiple movies where we were in pre-production and they just never got off the ground for whatever reason. So you have read my stuff before, but this will be the first time we actually release anything where it's like, hey, script is written, people are acting it, and we're putting it out to the world.
Yeah, that's right.
Which is, I think, is very exciting.
Yeah, that is exciting.
Finally, like it only took me 18 years, 19 years, but we're going to put something out
there. Doesn't matter.
But it's very silly. And it was interesting trying to write, and I guess we'll talk more about this in episode 101 when we break it down, and we have done it, so we had to talk about it more knowledgeably. But I had to try and write character, because everyone plays themselves in the radio play. Like I don't think I've given the premise yet of what it is, so I won't reveal it yet. We'll save it for episode 100. But everyone is playing themselves in the radio play. So I had to write for everyone as them, and that was kind of it. And like, it's interesting when you're friends with people because you kind of have your own opinions about your friends or the people you know, and things that you might find funny about people, you have to be careful. You're like, is that funny or am I making fun of them?
Yeah.
Or like, so for example, like I was writing a scene for Gabby and Andre. So Gabby and Andre came in episode 100. And like my immediate like go to was to make Andre the comic relief in the scene. And I was like, is that fair? Or is that just because I'm more friends with Gabby? So like I'll like, we'll make like I'll make fun of you, she'll make fun of her, her boyfriend, that
Mm.
sort of thing. But is that fair? So I had to kind of like rewrite it a little bit. Like not that I wrote anything bad
Yeah.
or rude or anything like that, but it was interesting, like trying to walk that line. And then like for my international guests, it was really tough because I've only met them a handful of
Yeah,
times.
that's right.
Like I've messaged them on Instagram quite a bit, particularly like Michael from We Love Horror. But even still, it's like he read his and he was very flattered. He was like, "Oh my god, like this is me!"
Oh, that's so
uh,
nice.
like he really dug it. So, but it is interesting writing people, like writing a character for someone where it's meant to be them. But no, I'm very excited. Like it'll yeah.
I think it'll be really entertaining.
Yeah, I think people are gonna like it. Like I finished writing the script on my lunch break the other day, and I almost rewrote the ending. So I wrote the ending. I was really happy with it because, again, without spoiling too much, like it's like it's ultimately like a good versus evil story. Like there's
Yeah.
always going to be like a villain or an obstacle.
Mm.
I think the twist or the villain is very cool.
Yeah.
I was like, when I came with them, like, oh, I was like, I don't want to pat myself on the back, but that's clever. I like that quite a bit. But also, like, the resolution, I think is fine. Like, because I didn't want to, because it's a radio play, I didn't want to write something too visual. Like, even though you can use the theater of the mind and stuff like that, I don't be like, and then they're flying around with lasers and stuff like
Yeah,
that. So it's
yeah,
very
yeah.
much conversationally driven. So like, I would say the weakest part of it is maybe the resolution, but like, it's meant to be silly. So
Yeah.
that's it. But like at the end of it, I kind of felt like it detracted from your journey a little bit. Where I was like, oh well, she's the hero, and we haven't really given her accolades. So I rewrote the ending. I was like, this just feels like an agenda now. Like I was
Oh, okay.
like, if I was like, you know what? Like Tina will understand that in this very silly radio play, the fact that she doesn't get more accolades is not a commentary.
Oh, yeah, I don't care.
No, I know, but like I was
The
like,
ending doesn't have to be like, and Tina saved the world and was awarded the best person in the world.
um, but no, I think it's really fun. I think like there's not a scene I don't like. I think like I like all the scenes. I think they're all really fun, and they've all got their own flavor. I think everyone gets a chance to shine. Like everyone who's involved in the recording will get a chance to kind of do some fun stuff.
Yeah.
And I think like more went into it than I planned. Like, because originally I was like, I'm just gonna write a silly little radio play, and it'll be like a half-hour thing. But like, it's probably gonna go for like 60 to 90 minutes.
Yeah.
Um, and I do. I think I told you I do silly things with the scene direction as well because, again, spoilers for episode 100. I'm gonna do all the narration. Like, I'm not gonna really play a character. I'm just gonna do the scene direction. So that way.
Yeah.
But because of that, I was like, well, at least I want to be at least funny in it. So like the scene direction does
Yeah.
kind of take on a bit of a character at a certain point, just becomes a little bit silly. And I got some feedback from the guys from Midnight Terrors, and Kevin was like, I can't believe how many references and callbacks to our podcast you got in 6 pages.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I mean, it might alienate the audience if they haven't listened to the episodes I've been on, but this is for us. Like,
Yeah.
this is a celebration for us.
Yeah, that's right.
And then people can go and do the research and go listen to those episodes.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
So that's that's the housekeeping. I think those are the 2 big things: 1,500 streams and episode 100 around the corner. And we start recording on Monday for episode 100, which will be good. I'm really excited. It's and it's something we I don't know. Tina's looking at me like this isn't what the show's about, but like we haven't really talked about episode 100 too much. Like it's the first time I think I've got a chance to be creative with the podcast, in a different way.
Yes,
like
that's right.
I do find it to be a creative outlet, the podcast, like because it's like I'm playing talk show, so it's always an element of creativity for me. But this is like,
you've actually made something that is like within its own format of the format of the podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. No,
Mm.
I yes, that's exactly right. And I've got like all these like merch ideas now. Part of me is like, oh, do we release the script? Do we like, and we can have like that could be like an item on the, but that's all future stuff.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But like that'd be kind of a cool like thing for people to buy if they were huge fans of the podcast, stuff like that. But that's a whole other conversation for later. Cool. That's our housekeeping. So before we jump into the actual topic, though, let's talk some movies because there may be less movie talk tonight. Like this,
Yeah.
spoilers for people listening. We're like what we're talking about is going to be very important. Something I've been wanting to talk about for over a year. And then after the events of a couple of weeks ago, it made me think like, yes, we definitely need to talk about this. There's a good chance to talk about it. I think it's important for me to talk about all these things, and I think it's important for people to hear them because maybe people don't feel comfortable sharing their feelings and talking about stuff. So it's a very important episode, but I don't want to be no movie talk. So before we jump into that, have you been watching anything?
I've been rewatching Lord of the Rings.
Jealous.
Yeah, well, don't get too jealous because I'm watching it on binge.
Yeah.
So even though we have the extended versions,
These aren't the extended.
these are not the extended versions.
I've got to. Can I just say there is a joke about the extended cut of Lord of the Rings in episode 100?
Is there?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And it's like obviously it's great.
Yeah.
Like obviously we all know Lord of the Rings is fantastic, extended or not. But I tell you what, after having watched exclusively the extended versions since I've seen them in cinemas. So in cinemas I saw the original versions that were released, which is the ones that are on binge. Then when I was growing up, I only had Two Towers.
Yeah.
I didn't have Fellowship of the Ring. I didn't have Return of the King hadn't even come out.
Yeah. Two Towers still my favorite of the trilogy.
See, I think Fellowship is my favorite because
There's a joke
I
about
watched
that in episode 100 as well.
Really?
Yeah.
I think it's because I watched Two Towers so often.
Yeah.
So often. And Two Towers has no Shire in it.
Yeah.
And that's all the bits I love all of it.
You were saying that you showed Zoe.
Yeah. I showed Zoe like Bilbo's birthday and stuff like that.
Well, she's very fascinated by Lord of the Rings because she saw because we both got the book because we're both a bunch of nerds, and she was like, "What's that book?" And I was like, "This is Lord of the Rings, and this is about a boy named Frodo, and he's a hobbit." And she's like, "What's a hobbit?" I'm like, "He's a small man with hairy feet," which she thought was very funny.
Yeah.
And she's like, "Can you read it to me?" So I've actually read her like a lot of like Bilbo's birthday.
Yeah.
And she was like fascinated.
Yeah.
At 3.5.
She looks at the book and she goes, "Is that the ring?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that's the ring," and everything. So, so I got the DVD, the extended version of Two Towers, and then obviously when we got together, you had all the extended versions.
Yeah.
And so all other than seeing it in movies, all I have ever seen is the extended version. And so now I'm rewatching the non-extended versions for the first time since cinemas. And I'm like, excuse me? Like, why are we missing all of these valuable pieces of information?
Yeah, I couldn't tell you the last time I've seen the theatrical. I have the box set.
Yeah.
Because when they released on Blu-ray for the first time, I just thought they released the extended straight away. Because why would you bother?
Yeah.
Like, and that's not a critique of the theatrical. The theatrical cuts are wonderful.
Yes.
But like, they're not that much shorter than the extended cut. Like, and people might be arguing, well, you take a 9-hour trilogy to a 12-hour trilogy. But to me, like, that's actually not that much longer for 3 already quite long films. Like, why would you bother? So when they released it, I asked for it for Christmas. I got it. I'm like, oh, it's the standard ones. I don't think I've ever opened that box set and watched it out of it. Because then, like 12 months later, the extended cut came out. It's like, and it's in that gorgeous gold box. Yeah.
That's right. But like, I'm watching it, and I'm watching, and then all of a sudden, there's just a weird cut to a different scene, and I go, oh, it feels like the flow isn't right. You know what I mean? It feels disjointed. And I can imagine how you would see it in cinemas and it wouldn't feel disjointed.
Yeah.
Because you don't know.
Yeah.
But having seen it so often, the extended version, when you see the theatrical cut, you just kind of go, they cut that entire scene out. Okay. So like there's this whole bit, I can't exactly pinpoint where. But there's this whole bit, you know how like Merry and Pippin get taken by the Uruk-hai?
Yes.
And then what's his name? Theoden. Is it Theoden who gets banished from Rohan?
Aemma.
Is it?
Aomer's his son. So Theodred is the king? Or no, Theoden is the king.
Yeah.
But his son is Aomer and his niece is Eowyn.
Yeah.
His son is killed. Theodred is his son and he's killed on the battlefield by the Uruk-hai.
So the other one is the nephew?
The one, like the horse lord with the horse helmet?
Yeah.
That's Aomer.
And he's like, too long have you watched my sister?
Yes.
Too long have you watched her steps?
Yeah,
that one.
Yeah.
You know, he gets banished, right?
Yes, yeah.
And so they're on that.
Like, what
they're
a bunch
in
of
that.
nerds.
Yeah. They're in that, you know, field section.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe it was just before. I don't know. I was falling asleep, so this is really not good podcast talk. But that whole scene of like the Uruk-hai attacking Merry and Pippin, that's shorter. That's a lot shorter. The scene where they're talking to the horse lords, that bit's not shorter, but the whole like lead up to them finding the pit of Uruk-hai that have been burned, like just little bits and pieces and been cut and trimmed and stuff like that. I just go, oh, that's a shame. But literally, like every single time, you know, you see Viggo Mortensen kick the helmet, and you just go,
yeah. There's so many memes about that.
Yeah, that's right, exactly.
Every time I find one of them, I send it to you. That's how I feel about Justice League. Like, I remember when the Joss Whedon version of Justice League came out in theaters. We saw it, and I was like, you know what? It wasn't that bad. Like, actually, quite. You know, I think it's it's quite fun. That sort of thing. And we watched it. Like, that was the only version for so long. And then when the Snyder Cut came out, the extended one, I watched the Joss Whedon one more time beforehand. I'm like, hey, this is still fun. Like, I'm really looking forward to see what 2 extra hours does to this movie. And then I watched the Snyder Cut. I'm like, okay, this is brilliant. And then all I've watched for the last 3 years is the Snyder Cut. And then a few weeks back, I was like, I'm going to rewatch the DC films. I watched the theatrical cut of Justice League, and I was like, oh.
Now I know why Tina didn't like it.
No, you do like the
Oh, I do like it. Oh, okay.
But I was just like, oh, like it feels so incomplete, and like like now I see. I don't hate it, but I was kind of like, I was bummed out. I was like, oh man, like there's so much cut out of this, and it feels incomplete, and I can see why people don't like it. So much so that my entire DC rewatch has stopped. I haven't gone back to watch like other things happened as well, but I was like, because I was going to watch all of them, I stopped at movie 4. I haven't gone back. So yeah, I don't think Lord of the Rings would have the same effect. I think the theatrical cut is very serviceable. I think you can watch it.
Yeah, it is. It's just interesting to just kind of go like, that scene feels unfinished.
Yeah.
Now. Yeah. And I've been watching Bridgerton.
Yes.
Bridgerton, which I know isn't a movie.
What kind of podcast do you think this is?
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so it's obviously like split into 2 release dates. So I've only watched the first half, just like everybody else. And I just have this thing, like obviously I enjoy it, sort of thing. I'm not like,
you love a period drama.
I love a period drama. I'm not like, dying over, oh my God, will these characters get together or whatever, sort of thing like that. I'm just sort of like, oh yeah, I'm enjoying it. I might listen to one of the audiobooks of the books. We'll see. But there's this thing that I just can't seem to get past with Bridgerton. And it's that formulaic thing of you know how Kelly talks about the meet cute? And like, you drop something on the floor and both your hands go to touch and then you look at each other and like you both stand up and you're like, I'm so sorry and blah, blah, blah. There's this thing in Bridgerton of people getting like injured or almost injured and then like they freak out about the injury and then they look into each other's eyes. Their breath stops for a minute. And then they recollect themselves and go, oh, and say, how silly of me.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, so I'm watching it and I'm just like, yeah, okay. It's exactly the same as last season, which is exactly the same as the season before. But it is still awesome and lots of fun.
Is it now? I remember when Bridgerton first came out, and I've only seen clips. And when I say clips, I mean like I've walked by and you've been watching it, and I've learnt the word Viscounts.
You've done the thing. You've done the thing where
guys will sit there.
Guys will like they're not watching, but they sit and watch for like 20 minutes, and they are watching. Or like I'll have it on, and then you come into the room and go, I can I'll stop this. You go, no, you can finish it, and then you end up watching the last 20 minutes of the episode.
Yeah, but I haven't. But I still I wouldn't
No.
claim to know much about it.
No, of course
But
not.
I remember when it first dropped during the lockdown, people were like, it's the raunchiest show ever.
Yeah.
But is it still that, or is it like, because everything I've seen has been very tame. I know season 1 is meant to be pretty insane.
Oh, like you don't see private parts.
Yeah.
Like how you see it in, like, for example, Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
You'd see you see a lot of boobs in season 1. I've only seen it once, and it was when it first came out. So you do see lots of boobs, but there is a lot of like going down on chicks. Like lots of that, like openly.
This should have been called Downton Abbey.
Yeah.
Downton Abbey.
And there's a lot of sex. You see like a lot of like profile sex, so they'll be bare, like clearly the actors are naked, sort of thing like that. A lot of orgasms, on-screen orgasms.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd say it's pretty raunchy.
Okay, there you go. Because all I ever hear is like I would say like exclusively every scene I've seen in the show is some sort of banquet.
Oh yes, that's mainly what it is.
Like it's all like
the sex generally doesn't come until the later episodes.
Yeah.
Like it's not like the first episode is sex.
Yeah.
One thing I will say really pisses me off, and I know it's in reference to the era, but it really pisses me off how all of the male characters, not just the dastardly Viscount sort of thing like that, all of the male characters are constantly going to brothels and having sex. And none of the female characters know about sex. And it's this constant storyline of like the mother has to tell the daughter, this is what happens on your wedding night. And the man puts his, what? He puts it where? Sort of thing. And yet the dudes are having multiple women orgies every fucking night.
Yeah.
And that really pisses me off. Because what that essentially means is that in those male characters' eyes, a woman is not worthy of marriage and love unless she's virginal. And I know that's that is a trope from that era.
I was gonna say, isn't that very much of its time?
It is very much of its time. But I'm just like, fucking hell. Like, does every single dude have to go to a brothel?
Yeah.
Like, the only one who doesn't is, like, the 14-year-old son.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Next season.
Next season, sort of thing.
His first visit.
Like, for fuck's sake, can we have one hero, I use hero in inverted commas, the romantic male lead, fucking dip his quill.
Like, where's the Hugh Grant? Well, it's like, he's like all awkward and stuff.
Yeah,
I prefer books.
Yeah. I guess that's not sexy, though, is it?
Yeah. I don't know. Are brothels sexy?
According to shows like this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've been watching Bridgerton?
Yeah.
Watched Mean Girls?
Oh, yeah, we watched Mean Girls. I totally forgot about that.
Now, obviously, we'd both seen the original film a lot.
Yes.
Probably quoted it on this podcast quite a bit. And like a film that I would say we would quote. I would say we quote on a monthly basis. I don't think it's quite like a weekly basis, but I would say we quote that movie quite a bit. Now, missed it in theaters, and we knew it was a musical going in. Unlike most of the world had no idea it was a musical because the trailer didn't suggest it was at all. But you'd seen the musical and listened to the soundtrack.
No, I have not seen the musical.
Oh, but you've listened to the soundtrack.
I've listened to the soundtrack. Okay, so I've seen clips of it on YouTube. Okay, I haven't actually been to the musical.
I thought you had.
No.
But you're a lot more familiar with it than me. So me going into a story I'm very familiar with, but with a new take on it, you probably having a little bit more understanding of what to expect for it. What were your thoughts on Mean Girls, the musical? I
really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And I don't know why people didn't enjoy it.
Yep.
I guess the only way I could understand that you didn't enjoy it is if you didn't know that it was a musical.
Yeah.
Or based on the musical. So the musical is obviously based on the movie.
Yeah.
The musical is slightly different.
Yeah, I noticed that as well. Like, I really liked it as well. The one thing I can see people were saying was like, what's the point of making a remake of this movie? But I would say just to your point, like, well, it's a musical. Like, they did the exact same thing with Matilda.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
There's a movie Matilda based on a book.
Yeah.
And then 20 years later, they adapted as a musical and they made a movie of that musical.
Yeah.
So, and no one had that commentary about Matilda, by the way.
Mm.
Like 2 movies that went through the exact same process and no one complained about Matilda.
That's interesting.
Do I like it more than the original? No. I think.
Oh, no, I didn't say that.
No, I wasn't saying, but I'm just kind of giving my review. I really liked it. There were some things they changed that I didn't quite like. So, for example, I feel like Gretchen's role was really diminished in this movie. Like, Gretchen, I think, is a really fun character, and she has that great, like, did she even have? Like, she didn't have that in this movie, did she?
No, she doesn't. No.
So, like, and I think it's actually longer than the original movie as well. So they did cut things out and move things around, but minor quibbles. I'm shocked they found an equally funny Karen.
Yeah.
The girl who played Karen in this version, I'm not saying she's as good as Amanda Seyfried, but she was really funny, had really good comedic timing.
Yeah.
I liked Busy Phillips in the Amy Poehler role.
Yeah.
I liked all the cast. There was one moment though when you find out she's got a crush on Aaron Samuels, and we're both kind of like,
what,
him?
Really? Because just the shot of him, and as we kept watching it, I'm like, okay, maybe that was just the lighting in that shot and the angle of his face and stuff. And I'm like, no, he's just not that heartthrobby. He's not ugly, but I wouldn't drop everything to be with this guy.
But I wonder, if you asked a 15-year-old, because
I think they would say the same thing.
I don't know, because I feel like he falls under the Timothy Chalamet.
No. Timothy Chalamet is a lot more handsome than this guy.
No, but they're very aloof and kind of hey, I've just got floppy hair and I'm very casual. Whereas Aaron Samuels in the original one looks like he could have walked off a soap opera, which was considered very sexy during our generation. So even though I was we were him, I was you know what? I bet you there are 15-year-olds today who are no, that is what I look for. That's that's the ladybird generation of.
I don't know. I don't know.
I'm not saying I agree with
it. Certain facial facial features need to be aligned well.
Yeah.
Basically, in order to be a heartthrob, and I just didn't understand why he was a heartthrob.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I really enjoyed it. I loved all the songs. I loved how, because obviously I've listened to the songs before. And this is the really interesting thing. When I first listened to the Mean Girls Broadway soundtrack, I didn't really like it that much.
Yeah.
I didn't really like the songs. I found them to be very strangely composed.
Yeah.
And I couldn't wrap my head around the musical structure of the songs. And then obviously the more I listened to it, the more I sort of got used to it and started liking them. And there's certain songs that I like more than others. There's certain songs that I kind of don't really listen to. But what I liked about the movie version of the musical is certain songs, they changed the tempo or they changed
the
arrangement of the instruments, or made it a bit more sort of maybe a little bit more acoustic or something. And I was like, oh, that's a really interesting. Yeah, I taught it to her.
She's using it a lot.
I taught it to her.
Yeah.
I just thought that was a really interesting take. And even though I haven't seen the musical, from my understanding of certain songs and certain scenes, I think in this movie they played the people singing the songs were singing them to other people. So not the people that they're supposed to sing it to in the musical.
Yes.
I think.
You were
because I haven't seen the musical.
Yeah.
So I can't say that for verbatim. But I think they're singing it to other people, and it changes the impact and it changes the the subtext and the meaning behind it
Mm.
of the relationships. I really liked the modernization of it. I really liked all of the phone stuff and TikTok stuff.
I
And
think you have to do that.
I loved how Regina like then became a filter that you could have, like the crying eyes and stuff like that. And I just thought all of that stuff was really clever. I liked the way that they sort of brought it in. I liked the taking away of it being a source of shame to be called a lesbian. And instead it was more of the frustration of being teased for this outburst of anger sort of thing. Like
I remember I saw an interview with Tina Fey and she said, like, because she was heavily involved in this, like she wrote like, and she almost directed, I think, at one point, ended up stepping away from those duties, but she wrote it again. And she
her husband composed all the music for the musical. Go. Yeah, they worked together on the musical.
But I remember in the interview saying, like, the beauty of being creatively involved the second time around is she's like, I got to fix. She used the word fix. I don't know if fix is the right word, but she's like, I got to fix a lot of jokes that wouldn't fly today.
Yeah.
Because obviously, like, if you watch that original one, like, it's very much a product of its time. Like, there are jokes in there you can't get away with today. No. Now, I don't happen to have a problem with those jokes, and I've mentioned my friend Michael before from We Love Horror. I'm not outing him. Michael is a very openly gay man, but he loves Mean Girls, and he doesn't have a problem with any of the jokes. And he's like, nope, that's like when I was young and like kind of discovering my sexuality, like that help me.
Yeah.
So even though I'm a straight man and, you know, I kind of defend a movie like that, I'm glad that like people are very much like, look, does it get everything right? No, but it's
But
fun.
Also I think it has its finger on the pulse well, because I remember in 2006, like I remember in my friendship groups, like girls me whispering about other girls possibly being lesbians and it being like the worst thing that you could be called other than a whore.
Yeah.
Like the worst thing you could be called would be a whore or a lesbian. And it's like now in 2024, it gives a shit if you're a lesbian or not.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. And so I think that really, even because it's a product of its time, I think it actually reflects that time really well, because now I didn't engage in any of that and I always thought it was ridiculous, but even further down the track now you really look back and you go, wasn't that so stupid? Wasn't it so stupid that like we considered the worst thing to be called was a lesbian? Like, it's fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I really enjoyed it. I thought the weakest part of the movie was Katie.
They changed her character. That was the thing I was going to bring up as well, because in the original, Katie becomes plastic, but it's almost like it's an accident. She doesn't even realize she's doing it. She becomes seduced by the plastics and like the idea of finding this cute boy, but it's kind of like this like long journey, and then before she even realizes she's a plastic.
Yeah.
Whereas in this, at a certain point in this one, I felt like she was very deliberately trying to become.
Yeah, like that whole cafeteria scene where Regina comes in.
Yeah, the sweatpants.
And then she turns around and she's like, you can't sit. Like that's a deliberate choice.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sort of thing. Whereas she's choosing to now become the queen bee. Whereas in the first movie, you have that whole bit where it's like, you know, Gretchen and Karen are following her. And she's like, oh, no, I was going to go do this thing.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That was one big difference. I'm shocked, and I might be showing my age now, but I'm shocked this film was rated PG. Because there were like, because the first one is an M, like it's an M. Yeah. Which was probably a PG-13 in America. I don't think it was an R. But this one was a PG, and like some of the jokes, like there's a whole song about sex.
Yeah.
Like that whole sex. Although that being said, like Grease is PG, and I would say Grease is probably borderline M. Like,
yeah.
But I was shocked. I was sitting there, I was like, because there was a moment when we were going to, I bought it like in advance, and we had a couple of plans. But I was like, on Sunday, watch Mean Girls, and part of it was almost like, oh, we could put it on with Zoe, it'll be fine. No. And I watched it, I was so glad I put it on with Zoe. Like, there's so many questions to answer. And I don't have a problem having a conversation with my kid, but some of those conversations would have been a bit premature.
Not for a 3-year-old.
Yeah, no. Well, I just thought she might like the music and like the that sort of thing. But like that scene, like again, like if you think "I'm a mouse," was like expletive in the original film, like the outfits they're wearing are very skimpy. For a PG film. But no, I really enjoyed it. I liked seeing Lindsay Lohan come back for the cameo.
Yeah,
I thought that was a nice little shout out. They changed the Jingle Bell Rock thing to something else. I probably prefer the Jingle Bell Rock scene, but because that's when you see again, like that ties very much into the Gretchen storyline, which they didn't really do. That would be my biggest critique is that like I think she's such a great character in that original one, like and lends so much to the downfall of Regina George that like it was just a missed opportunity. But I really enjoyed it. I really liked the songs as well. Like, I didn't know any of the songs. I think I'd heard Apex Predator once or twice, but I didn't know any of them. And I thought all the songs were really well done. And it's like thinking about it now, like when you do get a remake of a film, especially one that's so impactful and has such like a cult audience, often like when you go back to watch that film, we're like, "Do I watch the original or the remake?" And I think 9 times out of 10, we're like, we'll watch the one that I loved first. But with this, I honestly think like I could put either one on any day.
I think they stand alone. I think they each stand alone individually. I think it's also worth noting Renee Rapp's performance as well. She plays Regina so subtly. Like when Rachel McAdams, who does a brilliant job as Regina, obviously, but like you can tell that she's being a bitch. Like, and now you're getting on my last nerve.
That's exactly the line I was thinking of.
Like, you can tell when she's being horrible. But, like, Renee Rapp plays it so subdued and so subtle, and it's so authentic.
I was going to say it's probably the realism of it.
It's the realism of it and the authenticity of it, of you walking away from a conversation with that person and going, wait, hang on a second. Like, did I just make a complete idiot of myself? And why do I feel like like shit now? And it's all got to do with just like her tone and her facial expressions, and she just does a brilliant job.
Also, it was interesting. Like it took because I had to pull up my phone at a certain point during the movie to realize that the girl who plays Janice is Moana. Which I thought it was kind of cool seeing her play. Again, I'd never seen her in anything. I've only heard her voice in Moana, but to see her kind of go from that to Janice, I'm like, oh, what a cool like little.
But also as Janice, they kept her as Islander. So they changed her last name to make it an Islander last name, which I thought was really good as well.
Well, yeah, I think like, and maybe that's why they didn't lean too hard into the lesbian storyline, because the great joke of the original one
is that
she's Lebanese. But like Regina thinks it's lesbian. So maybe that's why they didn't lean to that storyline too much. But no, and I thought her song, the one where she's like stick up your middle finger or whatever, I like that as well. Like, it was sanctioned rebellion and very safe, but I still enjoyed that, like her run around flipping people off. So I'm aware. And the guy who played Damien I thought was good as well.
Yeah, I thought he was great.
So that was a good one. That's one we watched together. So that's about all we've watched, Mean Girls.
I think so, yeah.
Lord of the Rings. I've watched a bunch of stuff. I won't go through all of it because obviously we've been talking for almost an hour already. But I watched The Zone of Interest, which was an Academy Award nominated film.
Okay.
I was very tired watching this movie. I think it was after all the events of everything that happened. But basically, the whole idea of this film, like because I knew nothing about it. I was like, nominated for an Oscar, let's just watch it, let's check it out. And it opens up with like on this family, and like they're all speaking German. And I knew it was a World War II film, but I didn't know anything else. And then it turns out, like at a certain point, like Dad walks out and he's wearing a Nazi uniform, and it turns out it's the story of just this German family growing up during the Holocaust, just living. And then you find out pretty early on that the house they live in backs onto like a wall of a concentration camp. And so like the soundtrack of this film, like just, you'll hear them like, Mum's going out gardening, or the kid's going for a bike, and then you just hear like gunshots. Or like screams and stuff like that.
God.
Yeah, it was really, it's very sobering, and it's very like, it's very dry. Like it's not like, like some World War II films, there's like a lot of action and stuff like that. Like, it's not that at all. It's almost kind of like, hey, this is what it was like for quote.
It's like a slice of life.
Yeah, exactly. And it was almost kind of like and it's weird to use this word, maybe this isn't the right word, but like here's what like a normal family looks like through this prism. Because no one in the family other than the dad did things that I would consider like Nazi behavior, but clearly like they are Nazis.
Yeah.
But like at the end, it was interesting to be like, look, you know, yes, obviously these were atrocities. It was a horrible time, but like while dad's going off doing all these despicable things, like these are just kids growing up, and they didn't know what their father was doing. And at some point, it's such a fascinating view on it. Now I've heard like some people have. I think some people were calling the film Islamophobic. I don't know.
Islamophobic?
Not Islamophobic.
Anti-Semitic.
Anti-Semitic, yes, sorry. Yeah, sorry.
No, that's all right.
Wrong prejudice. Anti-Semitic. Now, again, I was very tired watching it. I didn't really kind of get that vibe from myself, but also as someone who's not Jewish, I don't think it's really fair for me to comment on that. But I just thought it was a very fascinating take on a World War II picture. And just kind of, just being like, hey, it is a World War II film, and yes, like these things are happening, but we're not going to show you that. We're going to show you something that you've never seen in a World War II movie before.
That's right.
I think, like from an experimental point of view alone, like it was a fascinating watch. So I checked that out. I watched a bunch of horror stuff. I won't go through all the horror stuff. Actually, that's all I've watched pretty much since then. So, but I watched like a bunch of the Conjuring films I hadn't seen before. I watched Last Voyage of the Demeter. I don't know if you know this one, but it's the new Dracula film.
Okay.
So it's based on one chapter from the novel Dracula, where Dracula's coffin is like loaded onto a ship called the Demeter, and it sails from Romania to London. It's one.
I think I remember that bit.
It's one chapter in the book, and the whole movie is just based on that journey. Probably a bit long for my liking. Like it's a 2-hour film, like for a story that could probably be told in 90 minutes.
Yeah.
But it was cool. Like I liked it. And they used like the very like kind of scary version of Dracula, like you know the bald, like long fingernails, looks like a bat.
Nosferatu kind.
Yeah, very Nosferatu, Count Orlok, that sort of thing. Yeah. So I like that. I watched the first Omen, which was fine. A lot of people have said it's one of the best horror films of the year. I liked it. I don't know if it's the best horror film of the year, but I did like it. I saw it see If a couple of weeks ago, which was pretty fun. It's getting pretty bad reviews, but I didn't.
Oh, really?
Yeah. People say that like it isn't a very well made film, but I didn't really get that vibe. But all it is a weird film. Like doesn't really like. It takes a while to get going and doesn't really know what it is for a little while, but I still liked it. And the performances are fun. And then I took somebody to see Garfield today as well, which I was shocked how much I enjoyed.
Yeah, that's good.
Because when they announced that there's a Garfield movie coming out, I was on board because I always liked the Garfield animated series when I was a kid. I liked reading Garfield in the newspaper because they still printed Garfield in the newspaper when I was a kid. So I loved that character. I loved that kind of sardonic sense of humor. I loved him like was getting one over John, that sort of thing. So I always loved that as a kid. And so when they announced it, I was like, yes, Garfield, what a great idea. Like, let's see another Garfield story. And then all the trailers, I was just kind of like, yeah, it wasn't doing anything. Like, the first teaser I liked, which is baby Garfield looking at the window and stuff like that, which is very cute. I actually thought the casting of Chris Pratt was great because I remember, I was in the animated series a long time, but for some reason I feel like he sounded a lot like what Chris Pratt sounds like. So I'm like, oh yeah, that's a good, just that kind of generic deep male voice. So that's fine. But all the other trailers didn't really do much for me. I was like, maybe this won't be as good as I thought it was going to be. But I really enjoyed it. She loved it. She was laughing the whole time. And like there were moments where like she's like, they're sad. Like there were moments she's kind of like pointing out. Or there's a bit where like Garfield and his dad are crossing the road. She's like, they're adorable.
Aww.
And she sat through the whole thing. Like, and it's not a short film; it's like an hour and 40-something minutes. So, so she sat through the whole thing. But it actually reminded me a lot of the most recent Chicken Run film, Dawn of the Nugget. Okay. It was very much kind of like a heist movie that had to break into like a food factory and get out. And really good cast. Really fun. Like. Again, this one's not reviewing particularly well either. I think it's getting like a 5 online.
That's a shame.
But I don't know what people were expecting from a Garfield movie.
Yeah.
Like I saw one review and they were like, this movie is an example of why if you don't understand the source material, maybe it's best not to create a movie. And I was like, what are you talking about? It's about a cat who likes lasagna.
Yeah.
Like, that's the premise of the character.
Source material is a cat who likes lasagna.
Like, I'm sorry, like...
Excuse me, there wasn't enough lasagna.
There is a lot of lasagna in this movie. I was like, if you're looking for, like, a really deep story on the human condition, like, Garfield ain't that. Like, Garfield is literally about, like, a cat who likes lasagna. And they changed some stuff, like in the original comics and animated series, Garfield and Odie. Like, Garfield can't stand Odie. He's like, oh, this dog.
Yeah.
In this, they're friends. He's like, Odie's my sidekick and stuff like that. And he always thinks, I let him help me out. But no, it was really cute, really good voice talent. I think before I watched it, I think last night we were talking, and you're like, well, you'll probably cry a bunch. Like, I think that was
because I thought it would be more like the Paddington vein of like, here's this adorable creature.
Yeah.
And then like we know it's about like him being abandoned by his dad, and then his dad comes back into his life, and I'm like, oh, that's just a recipe for crying.
Oh, like you're right. I cried like 3 times.
Yeah.
But I had to, like, normally I won't starve my tears, but even, and like, not because Zoe was there. Like, I didn't care if Zoe sees me cry. But next to us, there were like 7 or 8, I would say 11, 12-year-old boys.
Yeah, well, you remember me in Paddington too?
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
There was 2 12-year-old, 13-year-old boys behind me watching me
cry. But they kept like running past us, like, I was like, I gotta rein it in. But no, I really liked it. And it's a wisecracking cat who likes lasagna. And I think it's a good family film. Like, especially you got young kids. Like, teenagers probably aren't going to dig it, but you got younger kids. I think it's well worth its time. And those are some of the movies we watched. Well, that is the end of the podcast. No, I'm just kidding. So that's a long introduction to the episode. But I said we should get some movie talk. And, like, it's not going to be, like, the second half of this episode is not going to be, like, all doom and gloom and serious. But something happened. And I was like, you know what? I would like to talk about it on the podcast. Because I would say I'm pretty candid on the show and talk about stuff. But, like, there's a big part of me that I haven't really talked about. And not because, like, I'm ashamed or anything like that. But it's just the show is very structured. But I know about 12 months ago, I was like, oh, it would be really good to talk about mental health on the podcast. Like, even just do one episode, just kind of talk about it. Because movies, like, spoiler alert, like, somewhat of a crutch. Like, there's a reason why movies play such an instrumental role in my life. And it's got all to do with my mental health. And I remember I was talking to Michael about it, because Michael, again, from We Love Horror, a couple of name drops for him today. He's always been very open about his mental health in his podcast. In fact, he inspired me a little bit to talk about it as well, because he stopped his podcast for 7 months. Because, like, you know what? I'm just not taking care of me. So I'm going to stop the show, take care of me, and then when I'm feeling better, I'll come back. And that's exactly what he did. And from all accounts, it was the best thing he ever did. So I've wanted to talk about it for a while on the show, but, like, every time I've tried to get something going, like, just other things have come in the way. So, but as I said, something happened recently. I'm like, right, let's talk about it. So I'm going to try to be as honest and candid as possible. Tina is going to be here, I suppose, more as a sounding board than anything else. But I'm sure you'll have questions at some point. You might have, like, questions on behalf of the listener. But also, you'll keep me on the straight and narrow, because I might have the tendency to overshare sometimes. You might be like, shut up, like, stop it, pull the plug. And we'll just kind of see how we go. I don't want to, like, spend like 3 hours talking about this sort of stuff. But so I posted online couple of photos recently, because 2 weeks ago I made an unexpected trip to the emergency room. Which I've never been to before. I've never been to hospital before. Like, I've been to hospital, like, as a guest. I went to the hospital when, like, when we had pneumonia, I took you to the hospital. I didn't know I had pneumonia at the time. I took you to the hospital. When, Zoe was due to be born, we went to the hospital. But I've never been as a patient. Certainly not to the emergency room. But a couple of weeks ago, something happened. So basically, I was working, doing my job. I have a very sedentary job. I don't talk about what my job is on the podcast, but very sedentary, very much. It's a work from home job, work with a computer, so not a lot of moving around. And I had, like, a elevated heart rate. Like, I came back to my lunch break, I was like, oh, like, my heart's really pounding. Like, it wouldn't stop pounding. I'm feeling like I wasn't short of breath, but I was feeling kind of like I was breathing more as well. I was like, oh, this is very. But the wind's knocked out of me a little bit. I've just been for a run. Like, that's what I felt like, and I guarantee I didn't go for a run on my lunch break. And so I've had like a history of mental health stuff in the past. I was diagnosed with depression when I was like 13 years old, and I've got anxiety as well. And I just figured I was having a panic attack. But I was like, it's probably a panic attack. I've had plenty of these in the past. I know how to handle it. Just gonna take a few deep breaths, have some water, just step away from my computer for a second, and things will be over in like 10 minutes. Things weren't over in 10 minutes. Like 10 minutes later, like if anything, they were worse. I was like, all right, cool. Well, I have had this happen before as well. When it gets to the point where I can't manage it, what I've had to do is call the nurse on call. So anyone who's in Australia is probably familiar with nurse on call. Anyone listening who's not in Australia might not know of it. It's a great service, basically. It's exactly what it sounds like. You can call a 1-800 number and speak with a qualified nurse, and they can give you general medical advice. It's a really good option if you need some advice straight away, so you don't have to go to the doctors and wait in line for ages, and you don't have to rush and get an ambulance. Some of that. It's kind of a great medium. I know I'm over-explaining, but some people might not
Yeah,
know
that's
what it
right.
is. And they've helped me in the past when I've had this happen. So I gave them a call, and the nurse was lovely. And she was like, well, I can tell you right now, based on everything you tell me, it's almost certainly not a heart attack. To which I responded, wasn't thinking that, but thank you for mentioning that.
Now I am.
Now it's on my mind. Okay. But she was basically like, look, just have a lie down for 5-10 minutes and then go back to work. If things haven't changed or they've gotten worse, just go to the emergency room. And she's like, not because anything's actually wrong, but like, let's just, it's just good. I don't think you'll need to do that. That was her conversation with me. I was like, all right, cool, no worries. So I lay down for 10 minutes, came back to work. I was feeling okay. Like my heart rate was still pretty high, but it was like, I thought it was on the way down. So like, all right, cool, back to work. I had to make a phone call. I was doing job interviews that day for the company. And 2 minutes into the interview, my heart rate spiked. Like it was faster than it had been that was the fastest it's been so far. And I was starting to feel nauseous, which generally isn't a good sign. High heart rate and nausea can be a bad thing. And so I was like, oh my God, I just want to get like I'm interviewing someone. I can't get off this phone call. So thankfully she wasn't a suitable candidate. And I can happily say that because she admitted herself. She's like, this is right for me. It's like, no worries, if you change your mind, let's give us a call.
Yeah.
And I had to like call like the sick line at work, like, hey guys, I have to go to the emergency room, so I'll talk to you guys later. And that was it. Brought the dogs in. I think I brought the dogs inside. And then just drove off to the hospital. Which, looking back, don't know if that was the smartest move to drive myself. I mean, at the same time, I wasn't going to pay for an ambulance but like maybe I should have got an Uber or something because I had to have an elevated heart rate. But I was like, I just need to get there.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness. And so I get to the hospital, the local hospital, and check myself in, and they take my heart rate, and they didn't tell me what my heart rate was, which I thought was interesting at the time. I was like, they're not telling me it's probably not good. But at the same time, I was like, well, if it's not good, they probably don't want to like scare.
Right, that's right, exactly. Then it would be like, your heart rate's 2,000.
Yeah. So they checked me in, and they were pretty quick. Like it was like 2:30, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And I would say within 20 minutes, like someone was over checking me out and stuff like that.
That's really good because both times I went to the emergency room, once for me and once for Zoe. And you know how they go, they see kids faster.
Yeah.
We were waiting with Zoe in the emergency room for maybe like 45 minutes.
Is that when she had the fever?
Yeah.
I remember that, doing video calls from work. Yeah. Oh man, breaking my heart. But so they come along and check me, and they're like, "Oh, your heart rate is high." I was like, "Yeah, I feel okay. Like it's just fast." And they're like, "Yeah." And then this nurse comes over. I keep saying this young nurse, but they're all younger than me now. Like I'm at that point now, all the nurses younger than me. And even though they weren't busy, they didn't have enough rooms, so they'd made up like a nurse station in the bathroom. So she's like, "Come on, like we'll do a blood test." For those who don't know me very well, notoriously not good with blood tests. I'm okay with like vaccines and injections and stuff like that. I used to have a real fear of needles, but I've overcome that. Like thanks to COVID, we all had to get needles a bunch. But also because I had a bunch of dental work done. Like I've had injections in every part of my mouth. So after that, like injections don't really bother me anymore.
Yeah.
Like I've had them in the roof of my mouth, the back of my throat. But blood tests, for whatever reason, I just still have like an anxiety about them. And again, that ties into some like, guys, I'm already stressed out. Like, but she was really good. The nurse, she was lovely actually. She was really, really helpful. So she gets a blood test. and I've got one of those things in my arm, and I've never had one of them before. I'm walking around with like the temporary like plastic stopper thing in.
Yeah.
And again, like, because I've never been to hospital before, I'm like, well, I'll never have to worry about that until I'm really old. At that point, I'll probably be too like forgetful to care. But instead, here I am, like, like a couple of weeks ago, walking around with it, and then they have to go and give me an ECG. So they have to like take my heart rate and like they strap all these things to me. And thankfully, at that point, a hospital room had opened up. Now you know me very well, so when I tell you I was cracking jokes the entire time, you're not like, why? You're like, of course you were, because when I get nervous, when I get like antsy, like it's a defense mechanism. Like I crack jokes a lot as it is, but like if I'm nervous, like it's like stand up time. It's like, let me tell you more jokes. So so we get to the room where they do the ECG, and she's like, right, we're gonna do the ECG. So I'm just gonna get you to pop your shirt off, and like I freeze because you know this as well. Haven't taken my shirt off in public for I would say 10 years. Like I just don't do it. Like, and it's not even necessarily a body shame thing. Like I'll be honest, I'm not thrilled with the way I look. But I'm more comfortable with my shirt on. Like it's like I feel weird being topless in front of people.
Yeah.
So I think it's less of a shame thing and more of a like, that's weird. Like why would I like show you my little man boobs and stuff like that?
So at least you don't have to get pap smears.
That's true.
Yeah.
But so she goes, yeah, just pop your top off, and I was like, oh, I go, I don't take my shirt off in front of people ever, and like that wasn't me saying no, that was just me like kind of thinking out loud, and she looks at me like, what are you talking about?
Yeah,
and I was like, oh no, like it's fine, and like I'm scrambling, I'm like, I'm just letting you know, like you're one of like the privileged few. And she looks at me again, and I was like, no, I'm kidding. It's not a privilege. It's a mess under there. Good luck. Exactly what I said. I told someone, I said that, like, you're kidding. I'm like, I was nervous. And pop my top off, and she plugs me in and sticks all these things. And she was like, oh, we might have to shave your chest. I'm like, that's cool. Like, have you seen 40-Year-Old Virgin? And she was like, what's that? And I'm like, like, it's like, fair enough. Like, that would have been a great reference. Told you this, there's some movie talk. And then the doctor comes in, he does the test, and very quickly they're like, all right, there's nothing wrong with your heart, which is, again, I didn't think there was.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't having this, like, aside from an elevated heart rate and some nausea, I didn't have any of the major symptoms. There was no pain, there was no shortness of breath, there was no dizziness, anything like that. So I didn't think it was. But it's also good to know.
Yeah.
It's good to know there's nothing wrong with the heart. And they're like, cool, we've got to wait for your blood test results to come back. So just sit tight. We're going to give you some Valium to just drop that heart rate for you. But just sit tight and we'll see you soon. 3 hours pass.
Yeah.
And I remember when they said they're going to be Valium, I was like, I drove myself here. Will I have to get alternate transport? And I was like, nah, you'll be fine. He goes, it'll make you a little bit, like, you'll feel a little bit like, you'll be fine. He goes, it's going to be a small dose. So during this time, so 3 hours pass. I don't have any entertainment. Not that that's a major concern, but 3 hours where it is a long time.
Yeah.
But I called you a couple of times. And I said to you, I'm like, I really wish I'd grabbed my headphones. And you're like, I'm glad you didn't prioritize the headphones. I'm like, yeah, in the moment it's good, but like now that everything's okay, like it'd be nice to be able to listen to something. I was telling my friend Samantha, a friend of the show, Samantha, I was like, I had to watch free-to-air television, Samantha.
Yeah.
I was like, I had to watch game shows.
Yeah.
And while I'm sitting there, like some antics occur. Like there's always one angry person in an emergency. So there was the angry guy, and he was complaining about how no one cares about you when you're disabled. I'm not saying that is untrue. Like being someone who's not disabled, like I don't know.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I was like, everyone is here trying to help you.
Yes, that's exactly right.
And then but the thing that like messed me up the most, there was a guy who's sitting around, he's got like a little thing in his arm, just like me. And like I hear the nurse go to him like, hey, we're gonna get ready to send you home now, so we'll just take the thing out. And he was like, oh, great. And I guess like the girl who took it out had never done it before, because she pulls it out but doesn't put any pressure on, and he's just like bleeding all over the floor. And I'm like, it's like horror movie level of
blood pressure.
Yeah. And I was like, because I'm looking at mine, I'm like, oh my god, I'm like, I don't want her to do it. Like, and then like I heard what like the nurse who done my blood test earlier, she's like, she forgot to like put the pressure on. Like you need to put pressure on, otherwise it's going to do that.
That's right.
So they're not even fazed by it, and they've got like a wet floor sign and they're cleaning up whatever. And then I'm having conversations with you. I'm looking at my phone. I text my family. I took a little selfie of me in the in the emergency room with my little blood test thing in. And time goes very slowly. And then I want to say maybe the 2 hour mark, a nurse comes over to me, and she's like, she does my does a blood pressure test, and I'm still sky high.
Yeah.
Like still like hasn't gone down a bit. And she's like, "You been drinking water?" And I was like, not since I got here, because there is no water.
Yeah.
And she's like, "No, there's a water fountain right over there." Now this water fountain doesn't look like a water fountain. It looks like
that's right.
it looks like a science fiction hospital fixture that you wouldn't touch.
Mm-hmm.
And again, like that's not me complaining. Like they were all very helpful, very lovely. But I was like, please don't like blame me for not drinking water. If I've never been in this room before, like how am I to know? Like just a little bit of guidance would be nice.
Yeah.
But she was okay. Like she wasn't like a joke or anything. She was just kind of like, "Oh, you need to be drinking water." I was like, "All right, well now that I know about it,
yeah."
So I'm drinking water and stuff like that. And then we get to the 3rd hour, and they take my blood pressure again, and still high. And she's like, "Right, so I'm going to give you some Valium, and then we'll send you on your way. Have you got someone arranged to pick you up?" I was like, "Oh no, like I drove here." She's like, "What?" Like, yeah, I drove here, but the doc said it would be cool. He said I can just take the Valium and drive home. And she's like, no. He goes, well, and I said, well, no. He says this will be a small dose. So, like, even though, it's recommended you don't, he said, because it's only a short drive, this is what the doctor told me.
Yeah.
And the nurse was like, oh, yeah, the plans have changed. We're going to give you, like, twice the amount you're going to have originally. You will need someone to drive you home.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh. And this is happening at the most inconvenient time of day.
Yeah.
Because if this is around 6, 7 o'clock, and that's when Zoe goes to bed. So you're doing the bath, you're doing the bed, you're doing all the Zoe stuff. So you can't drop everything and pick me up because you can't leave a toddler at home alone. So I was like, that's fine, I'll Uber it. I was like, but just so you know, Valium doesn't really affect me. So I've had Valium a couple of times now and was shockingly disappointed. Because everyone's like, oh my God, you get so loopy. I was like, I didn't. I had it twice over 2 days for my wisdom teeth to be removed. And the second day, I felt a little bit lightheaded, but I wasn't like, I'm on another planet. Hospital grade Valium, very different beast. Because I haven't had any food. I've had almost nothing to drink.
Yeah.
And they're giving me a double dose. And they bring over the Valium. They do another blood pressure test, and it's on its way down. It's still not great, but look, we're happy to send you home. This is going to do the trick. If you have any other concerns, obviously you can call back. I was like, or come back. I was like, all right, no way. So I take my Valium, and all right, we're going to send you home. Have you got your transport? I'm like, well, I'm still waiting on the blood test results as well. I'm like, oh yeah, we'll get the doctor. And I was like, please tell me I haven't been waiting here 3 hours because you guys forgot.
Yeah.
But it was fine. Again, if there's something going to go wrong, I'm in the best place for it to be. So I wasn't angry at all. It was, if anything, I was bored and I was sad. I was bored and sad because I was sitting there and doing something that I don't recommend anyone. If you're alone in the emergency room, don't pull up photos and look photos of your family, look at them wistfully, because it will make you sad.
Yeah.
I was just like, oh my God, I could be home with my wife and daughter, but instead I'm here because, I don't know, did I do something wrong? Because that's the thing, I still don't know what the cause is at this stage.
Yeah.
And Doc comes out and he goes, look, we've done the blood test. All the blood tests point to a healthy heart, so we're not worried about that at all. We don't really know what it is yet, but we're happy to send you home. We think it's probably linked to anxiety. And I was like, okay, cool. No problems at all. I was like, so what happens now? I was like, do I go back to work tomorrow? Now that I've had an event like this, do I need a day to rest? And no, you'll be fine. They're like, we're not worried at all. But what we recommend, go to your doctor in a couple of days' time, get the rest of the blood test results because some of them take a little bit longer, and he'll be able to give you further diagnosis and go from there. I'm like, all right, cool, no worries at all. And as he's telling me this, the Valium starts to kick in, and I get high. That's what happens. I get high. And so I'm sitting there for a moment. I'm just kind of starting to look at my hands. Just kind of and not in a way where things are changing color or whatever, but I'm just kind of things are slightly out of focus. And I'm like, oh, I think I'm high. And there's a lady sitting 3 chairs down from me. And she goes, you all right, love? And I go, yeah, man. I was like, I'm good. Because it's just hit me. Oh, man, I'm so good. They're letting me go home now. I'm like, how are you? You good? And she's like, yeah, I'm good. I'm like, you going home? And she's like, no. She's like, oh, not yet. I was like, all right, man, well, I'm going to go because they said I can go now. And they took the thing out of my arm and stuff. So I'm going to go. But I hope you go home soon. And she's like, thanks. And I could just tell she immediately regretted asking. And and again, this is it's not even what I was like when I used to drink, because I don't drink anymore. Because when I used to drink and go drunk, I would get obnoxious. Like very much like, look at me, look at me. Like this wasn't that at all. This was just like the friendly filter had been turned way up.
Yeah.
Because as I'm walking past the check-in place where you sign in, the admin, I come out and I drum my hands on the desk. I'm like, hey guys, I'm going home now. Thanks so much for saving my life. You have a good night, everyone. Which I'm sure they were like, part of them was like, lightweight, can't handle his medication, but at the same time, they're like, well, at least he wasn't the guy who was yelling.
Yeah.
So, so I go out and I think I sent a voice message to the family. I think I called you. No, I didn't call you because you would have been with Zoe. I think I sent a message like, hey, I'm coming home now. I'll see you soon. I sent a voice message to my family, and I'm like, guys, I put my Valium, so I'm going to keep this short, but everything seems like it's okay. I'll tell you more when I know more. I'm leading to the Pedro Pascal teenage girl voice. And I call my Uber, and the security guards are just standing there, and that's all fine. The Uber driver pulls up. He's like, you're James? I'm like, I am. And like, generally when I get an Uber, I'm very kind of like, is this the license plate? Is this the guy? Stuff like that. I do a very condensed version of that because I'm just like, let's get in this car. And then proceeds the most uncharacteristic James conversation, I would say, of my life. Because despite what people would know of me from this podcast, from interactions with me, like what you know me as much, you would be the exception because you know what I'm like. I'm not an extrovert. I'm like, I guess like I'm kind of what people would describe as an extroverted introvert, where like if I know people, if I can speak knowledgeably, if I have a bit of rapport, then yes, I can be very loud and fun, like, hey everyone. But generally, if I'm in a room of strangers, or if I'm even one-on-one with a stranger and I don't know them and I don't have any knowledge to bring to the conversation, I'm just like head down. Like if I'm on the train,
you don't even make eye contact when you talk to people.
Exactly. Like I'm head down. I keep to myself. If I'm on a train, like if I'm in an Uber, forget about it. Not this guy. I get into the Uber and he's like, hey, you okay? Like he's kind of the emergency room. I'm like, yeah, man. I'm like, they're letting me go home, so we can just get out of here. And like I was like, oh, I'm like, sorry, they gave me something before I came out, so I'm a little bit loopy. Like this is how I'm talking to the guy. And then he's like, oh no, that's okay. I'm like, tell me, I've never driven an Uber before. I don't know if I ever will. So like, what's it like? Do you love it? Do you love being an Uber driver? And he's like, sometimes, like, there's good days and bad days. It's like, wow, I guess that would be like any other job, huh? I'm like, tell me something, because I always wondered this as well. Like, if you're going to drive with a passenger, do you want the passenger just like to talk to you and have a conversation? Or do you want the passengers to like kind of keep themselves a bit quiet? And he's like, oh, well, it depends. I'm like, because I'm being really loud right now. I'm talking a lot. I don't know if you noticed. So, like, do you want me to keep talking or do you want me to shut up? And he's like, oh, no, it's fine. Like, we can have a talk. Lovely guy. And then, like, we end up talking about a lot of things. He's talking about, like, when he picks up drunk people. I was like, it must be getting pretty wild, right? Like, we come up to the drunk people, they, like, partying and, like, putting their heads out the windows and stuff. And I guess he was like, what's this guy talking about? Because apparently all I know about drunk people is what I've seen on TV.
Yeah.
But he was like, like sometimes it gets a bit crazy, but mainly not. I'm like, okay, no worries. We get back to our street, and he kind of starts to pull up, and I think I'm starting to come down at this point because I have enough presence of mind to not get him to pull into our driveway. This is a trick. I don't say a trick, but this is something that we used to do in our 20s. I don't know if you remember this, but like my brother and I would do it a lot if we ever took a taxi somewhere after a night of drinking. We wouldn't get them to pull up to our address, just somewhere on the street because you never know what's going to happen. Even though with Uber you put your address in there. But he's like, where's your house? I'm like, he's fine, man. And he's like, cool. He's like, you're right to get inside. I was like, thank you so much. Like, you understand? Like, you got me home safe to my wife and daughter. Never forget this. I got real with him.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, see you later, man. And then, I come inside and I can hear you and Zoe, like you're reading the book to her. And I was like, I really want to come in and see you guys. But I'm self-aware enough at this point to realize that I'm probably too high for that conversation because like she'll get all riled up when hanging out with me and you're trying to get the bed thing. And like the last thing you need is people like, hey guys. Yeah. So like I sneak in, I come into bed. And then by the time you get out, I'm pretty much down. Like it was a very quick high. And at that point, I'm very sleepy. So we don't really talk about it. We don't really talk about me going to the emergency room at all the night of. And then the next day, like everything's fine. You guys go off, and I have to catch an Uber back to the hospital to pick up the car.
Yeah.
That Uber drive, very different. That one, I think I said 2 words to go home, but that was much more in character. But then, like, the weekend comes and goes, and we don't really like know anything. You know, like I've been to the hospital, but we don't have the blood test results back then. And I don't think you and I even really talked about it over the weekend, did we?
We talked a little bit about it.
What was that like? And again, like only talking about what you wanted, but like, what was that like? I guess reflecting now, like, were you scared? Were you worried, or were you just kind of like, like until we know more, like, there's no point worrying about stuff? Or
No, I wasn't scared or worried. I had some worrying thoughts, but like that's just because of my upbringing is to constantly have worrying thoughts about every single possible outcome in order to prepare for my life.
Yeah.
But no, I wasn't like super like scared or anything like that. I was concerned and I was hoping that you're okay. And I was just kind of like, all right, no news must be good news. And I know that the emergency room is a lot of just waiting with no information. Like, I can't tell you how long it took with Zoe when she had that fever and we finally got admitted. And she's in the bed and I had to get a urine sample from her. And it took like 3 hours to get a urine sample from her.
Yeah, maybe it's
and you're just sitting there going, like, nothing can happen until we get this urine sample.
That was kind of like that point about like you made about just sitting around waiting. That to me was the only reassurance. Whereas in my mind, I'm like, look, if they're not rushing to me, then things are probably okay. Like if there was something wrong, they're not making me wait out here for 3 hours. Like, because if it's life or death, they're like, well, we'll see how it pans out. Like they're on it pretty quickly. So the weekend kind of comes and goes, and nothing really majorly happens. Then Monday, I go to the doctor's. Guy's an hour late for my appointment, which sucks.
Yeah.
But he was a good doctor, so I think he has become my GP now, actually. But shockingly, and this blew my mind, there's not a single thing wrong with my heart or my bloods. Like he told me that, I was like, you're kidding me. I literally said that to him because I'm a bigger guy. Like I don't always eat the best. I would even say most of the time I don't eat the best. So like I was expecting like something to flag. He's like, nah. He goes, you're healthy. Like that's the word he used. You're healthy. I was like, all right. I'm like, so what was it? And he goes, well, like, do you have a history of anxiety? And I was like, I do. It's like, funny you should mention that. Like, I have. And he goes, have you had anything like this before? I'm like, I have, but not this serious. Like, there were like about 18 months ago, I had a panic attack after work, and I called nurse on call, and together through breathing exercise and conversation, we were able to get my heart rate back down, and we're totally fine. Previously, maybe 18 months before that, I had another one at a place I was working. I was able to get my heart rate down, but I had to leave work for the day. It was just too much. This is back when I was selling insurance. And I said, and before that, like every now and then, but not really. And he goes, yeah, I think you had a really serious anxiety attack. I don't think he used the word serious, but he used it like
intense.
Something like that. I can't remember the word. It was 2 weeks ago now, so my brain's getting a bit foggy. I've had COVID since that as well. But something along that, he was like, just, like a powerful anxiety attack or full-on anxiety. Like, it was full on. I was like, all right, cool. I was like, so what do we do here? And he goes, look, we'll get another blood test done like in about 6 months' time and stuff like that. But in the meantime, like just, keep doing what you're doing. And if you have if it gets bad, like let us know. And he was going to send me out the door. And I had thankfully the presence of mind enough to be like, hey, look, I don't know how you feel about this, but I don't think what happened yesterday is a suitable response. And he goes, what do you mean? And I go, I don't think that if I'm having, because, and here's the thing, because when he did the blood pressure test in the doctor's office, it was high again. And he goes, are you nervous today? You anxious? I was like, I didn't think I was. I was like, I thought maybe anticipating the blood test results, I've been a bit nervous, but nothing overly so. Just take a few breaths and we'll test you again. And he did it, and then my blood pressure was fine. And I said, see, that's the problem I'm having. is that I think I'm getting anxious and I don't know I'm getting anxious because like between like work isn't too stressful, thankfully. Work used to be stressful. My new role is far less stressful, but like work can be stressful. And we're raising a kid and we're paying a mortgage and we've got some plans which we're going to talk about later. But we've got and like my dad's been unwell and all sorts of. So there's a lot of things going on, and that's not me saying I have it worse than everyone. Not at all. But what I would say is I have a lot going on, and my attention is divided between many things.
Mm.
So when that happens, and if you are someone like that, I think that when your attention is divided amongst many things, the thing you're thinking about least is yourself. So you're not even necessarily aware that you're anxious.
Yeah.
Because you're just like, I just want to get the things done, and then I can focus on me. And so I settled that, and I said, look, I don't think, I don't.
You can't just drop everything and go to the emergency room every single time that this happens.
100%. That's, you're definitely like verbalizing it better than I am. But that's pretty much exactly what I said. I was like, so is there anything we can do? And like that was me kind of like, wink, wink, can you prescribe me Valium? And that wasn't because I wanted to get high again, but it was more like, now that I know that it works, like, because I don't want to be like on anxiety medication because I don't think I need it. Because it's not
that's
like
what Valium is.
Yeah, but I figured it's like my understanding was take as needed, not take it every single day.
No, there are things where it's take it every single day. Sometimes.
So but I didn't know. Again, I didn't.
It depends. It's a case by case thing.
I didn't know that, but I was basically like, is there something is something we can put in place so that if it does happen again, I can self manage. So I don't have to end up in the emergency room again. He doesn't put me on Valium. Instead, he puts me on heart medication. Now, I'm sure people listening and being like, well, hang on, did you just say your heart was fine? It is. I'm on something called a beta blocker, and it's like a temporary prescription. Basically, it slows your heart rate down. He's like, look, this is going to be the best thing for you because it's going to like block any of those kind of like sensors in your mind and in your heart. So you keep your heart rate down, and if you do get like a trigger that would normally stress you out, you're not going to react to it the same way.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm on. I've been on those for about 2 weeks now. I'm going on to the second week. The sucky thing about it is it has the very frustrating side effect that makes me very tired. Not like can't operate heavy machinery tired, but I just get like sluggish.
Yeah.
I've been sleeping better than ever. Like I've been having good sleeps, like full sleeps. I don't wake up so much anymore. But it does like kind of take me out of it a little bit. So that's where I'm at right now. I don't know what happens, over the coming months. I'll have to catch up with him again probably before the end of June and be like, hey, what are we, what's the go? Like, can I stop taking this or that sort of thing. But that's kind of where I'm at right now. But that is the events of what happened 2 weeks ago. Yeah. Did you have any other thoughts, I suppose, based on the diagnosis and the outcome of all that? Or do you have questions? Are you like, I'm fascinated to know X, Y, and Z?
Not really. I don't really have any questions. I think beta blockers is a good solution because Valium can be very hardcore.
Yeah.
Beta blockers are basically like, from my understanding, and now this might be completely wrong, but I think we naturally have beta blockers in our bodies make it.
Yes.
Like how it makes melatonin.
Yes.
For example. And so we have it in our bodies in order to lower our blood pressure when our blood pressure is too high.
Yes.
And stop us from feeling anxious when it's not necessary. There's no predator.
Yeah.
Sort of thing, for example.
Apex predator?
Apex predator.
Bring back some angles.
So I think that probably is the best medication for you. Because it is something that is a bit more quote unquote natural sort of thing. I use that term like loosely because it's still medication.
Yeah.
It's not like it's drinking special types of tea or something like that.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think I've seen an improvement in your sort of, I don't know, behavior or
demeanor.
Yeah, demeanor is probably a better word.
Unless Loon's involved.
Yeah, that's right.
Like, dog stresses me out so much.
That's why you have anxiety. It's because of Luna.
Well, I mean, you're not wrong.
Yeah.
Like that constant yapping.
But yeah, no, I don't really have any. Don't really have any
Mm.
questions other than how does it feel? And the answer is sucky. So like,
No, not sucky. Like it's been a weird couple of weeks. Like, and again, I didn't talk about this, and I won't go into the full details. But like when I went and picked up the prescription, the pharmacist told me very conflicting information to what my doctor told me,
mm,
which made me very nervous to take the medication because he was kind of like either he wasn't listening to what I was saying or he misunderstood why I was getting it because he was like, "This is for people with serious heart conditions, and once you start it, you can never stop it." And so I had to call my doctor and be like, can you clarify what this guy said because those are two different stories." But the doctor was very much like, ugh, like the tone was, "Ugh, pharmacist, am I right?" Like,
yeah,
um, which I understand. Like the pharmacist's job is to warn you. Do you know what I
yeah,
mean? So like I wasn't like annoyed, but I did take a day like not taking the medication until I got everything cleared up. But no, like I am a bit foggy and stuff like that. So that's the one downside. But I think I'm because I don't have these attacks regularly. Like I said, it's like once every 18 months. So like it's
mm,
not like so like is it working or is it because we're 17 months short of the next panic attack? You know,
yeah.
I'm not quite sure. But I do feel like more chill, I think. I think I feel more chill. I feel like I'm more like kind of leveled out and stuff like that. Um
It's hard to tell because you're generally quite a chill person anyway.
yeah, and I don't think I'm getting but look, I think that things would maybe stress me out or maybe kind of get my ire up usually it's not happening so much. I think I'm
Mm,
like there's something recently. I can't remember. I think something at work happened, and I think normally I'm like, oh my god, like that needs to get done, otherwise X, Y, and Z. And I think my reaction is very much kind of like, okay, well, we'll get
mm,
there. So yeah, so it'd be interesting to see. Um, my biggest concern was like, will I be able to stick to the routine? Because I'm terrible with routines. Like, I'm not good at keeping a routine at all. But I've been very good at sticking to medication, which is good because I want to keep enjoying my life.
yeah.
Now, my original plan was to do a deep dive because I guess like the next question, I guess well the only question for this is like, how did I get here? Like, how did I get to a point where my mental health was impacting me in such a way that I had to end up in the emergency room? And I guess that was the whole purpose of me wanting to talk about it was like, if you listen to this, I'm not saying like follow my instructions. I'm a doctor, like not at all. But I am a bit of a roadmap on what to avoid. And I think the biggest problem that I have is that I have had suffered from mental health issues for over half my life, as I said, since I was 13. And I've not always been the best person when it comes to communicating that and talking about it and
Mm.
like getting it off my chest. However, we are over an hour and a half into this episode, so I don't think now is the right time to start that conversation. But I
About getting it off your chest.
talking about
But this is getting it off your chest. This
no,
is talking about it.
well, no, I'm talking about the events that transpired in the last 2 weeks. But I think there's a large conversation to be had, like talking about really where it began, the things that kind of caused it, and some of the kind of some of the incidents that have happened in my life and like things to avoid. But I think that's a larger conversation for
Yeah.
another time because it is almost 10 p.m. Um, but I think it's a good first step talking about all
Yep.
this. Um, but yeah, I think that's pretty much yeah. Like I get if I start talking about the origins of it all, like this will become a much longer conversation, and that's now's not the time for that.
Mm.
Um, but I guess the thing to take away from it is, regardless of how we got here, stay tuned for part two of that conversation. We'll do that at some point. Regardless of how I got here, like I am more mentally well now than I've been in a while, I would say.
That's good.
And I think like I've probably not been mentally well for a good. And when I say that, like I want there still is very much a stigma about mental health, and I think like if you say I wasn't mentally well, people immediately jump to like, oh my goodness, he's having like bad thoughts or dark thoughts, or he's doing this or that, or like he's not safe to be around. Not at all. Like I would argue that most people.
That's so interesting because I don't think that's what the stigma is. I see the stigma is, oh, you're whinging, oh, you're complaining.
There's a lot of
everybody like feels sad sometimes. What makes your thing so bad?
There's that as well. I think there's a lot of.
I feel like that's
it comes
the stigma.
with so many different stigmas.
Yeah.
Like, and I think like talking about mental health is often seen as a weakness. You know, like it's interesting. Like, and this is definitely one of the reasons why I haven't spoken about it a lot. Is because they always say that men don't speak up enough, and we need to speak up. But then, whenever like in the rare times I have spoken about it, I've been either shut down completely, like ignored, or told I was complaining.
Yes.
But I remember, I'll tell this one story from my past. I remember one of the biggest spikes I had with my mental health. I would have been 17 years old. I was either in year 11 or year 12 at high school. And I was in a bad way. High school was not good for me, like especially year 7 through year 10. And I'll talk about that in more detail on another episode. But high school was not fun for me. I did not like high school until year 11 and 12, where I got to kind of study the things I wanted to study with the people I wanted to study with. I was not doing well. Like, a very small group of friends. Thankfully, I had them because they were the only friends I had. I was bullied on a daily basis, beaten up a few times as well. Plus, I had all the stuff going on at home. So, like, there's a lot going on. It was not a good time for me. But we'll keep it light because it's a movie podcast. But I remember, and I think I was in year 11, I was meant to be attending a film class, and I was in a really bad way. And I went across the road, because across the road from the school that I lived at, they had like a student well-being house, and like all of the people who provide well-being services were there. And I got there, and I was like, hey, I was like, I've never come here before, but I'm having a really hard time, and I just was wondering if I could speak to someone. I don't remember the teacher's name, but I still remember what she looks like, and this was her reaction. I haven't had my lunch break yet. Can you come back in like 40 minutes?
Yeah.
That was the reaction to someone who was crying out for help.
Yeah.
And I was like, do I wait here? And she's like, well, no, I've got to lock up. Well, I'll go get my lunch. So can you like go to class or do something else and come back? And I was like, thank you for letting me open up.
Yeah.
So that's what we're doing now, is we're opening up. We're being more honest about it. And like, hopefully, like if people listen to this, and have maybe had their own battles with mental health, kind of like, oh, okay, cool. Like, it's okay to talk about it. Like, we can talk about it. Like, there's nothing wrong with talking about it. And it doesn't matter the levels that it impacts you, whether you've had like a really hard time or whether you're just having a bad day and you're like, maybe there could be more to it than I realized. Like, the importance of it all is just talk about it. Like, just get it off your chest.
Yeah.
I've got so many stories to tell. Yeah. It's going to become its own separate podcast at some point. But no, sorry. The way I was saying that I think I am the most mentally well I've been in a long time. I think like probably there's been a lot of fallout from the lockdown that I wasn't aware of. Because in the lockdown we didn't really know. Like, like everything's cool and stuff like that. And I also had like a bad like kind of time leading into lockdown. Like we talked about it before. 2019 was the worst year of my life. Don't know if I'll ever talk about that one publicly. But that was quite a hard time for me. And I think maybe like for the last 18 months or so, I've been maybe more mentally unwell than I was aware of. Because the anxiety didn't just happen overnight. Like there's obviously something building there.
That's right.
Like, and that's what me being like, and I had a terrible home life. My wife doesn't love me. Like, not at all. Like, that's not the case at all. I just think like it comes down to classic James, terrible communicator, not opening up when I probably should be and stuff like that.
But if you have had it's exactly what you talk about. If you have had you know that you have to open up. You've been told from a very young age to talk about your feelings. And so then if you go, okay, I'm going to do that thing, and then you go and do it and people say, no, don't. You go, oh, okay, all right. And then later on you go, no, maybe I should try again. No, don't. And if you're constantly met with that, like then of course you're going to shut down from it.
Well, I remember, and I'll keep all the names censored because whilst it was not a positive experience, I don't believe there's any malicious intent. But you and I were at a party, and maybe that was the wrong venue to bring it up.
Yeah.
But we were at a party, and I remember saying to more than one person, I've been having a really hard time lately. I'm thinking about getting professional help. And like, upon saying that, the subject was changed to something completely different.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay. Wrong time, or just like, am I killing the mood? But like, I didn't verbalize. I was just shut down, and so I was like, okay, all right, well, okay, well, I tried.
Yeah.
I tried to open up. So I guess we're not ready to let people open up yet.
Yeah.
Again, I don't think there's any malicious intent there, like, and that's why I'm keeping everyone's names censored and stuff like that. But at the same time, I was definitely in a place where, like, I think I was at like a cry for help point, and I think we talked about it driving home from the party. I was like, that was messed up, right? Like I said that, and it was like, that was messed up, and you were like, yeah, that was messed up.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm feeling better. Like, not cured 100%. This is like,
no, because mental health, just like physical health, is something that you constantly work on.
It's
not like you reach optimal physical health and you're like, cool, I never have to be healthy ever again.
100%.
I have reached 100% health now.
100%. Absolutely.
You're constantly working on it. Just like how if you broke your arm and then your arm, you have to go and do, okay, not break your arm. When I tore my ACL, and I had to go to the physio, and I had to constantly do all of those physio exercises to heal my knee, sort of thing like that. I got better.
Yeah.
But every time I sit in a certain position, it hurts again.
Yeah.
I have to be careful with certain positions that I sit in. It's the exact same thing with your mental health.
Yeah.
You go to therapy, or you take medication, or you do like mindfulness and things to keep your mental health in check when you're having a bad state of it. But then just because you're in a good mental health state doesn't mean you stop doing those things.
100%. Absolutely.
You've got to keep doing those things, because it's not about reaching an end goal. It's the end goal is constant progress.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, the three biggest things that I've been working on, and granted, like, it's early days, it's only been 2 weeks, but like, there are 3 things that I really struggle to do, and I've been trying to practice all of them. The first thing I really struggle with is saying no. And so I've started trying to say no more, because
not be a people pleaser.
And I read something recently, and I thought it was fascinating. And someone was like, to all those people pleasers out there, how many of those people actually seem pleased? And I was like, that's deep. But like, I really struggle to say no. And that's why that's one reason why I have anxiety, is because like, I just add more things to the plate. So I'll help out with that. So learn to say no. I struggle to ask for things. I struggle to ask for help. Like, hey, and it could be such a simple, like, hey, can you like come and do the podcast with me, something like that. Like, it might seem like I'm good at that because I have a rotation of guests, but like, even tonight's episode, I wasn't afraid of asking you, like, oh, will my wife be on the show? But like, it took a while to get this episode going, because I was like, this is a big ask. I feel like it's a big ask. Like, hey, can you sit down and talk about mental health with me? And like, realistically, the answer is no. It's not a big ask at all. Like I can sit there and answer questions, but like, internally, it's like, oh,
people who care about you will do things for you.
Yes. And the third thing, I forgot what it was. Saying no, asking for help.
Don't be the firstborn son.
That is great advice.
Yeah.
I can't remember the other thing I'm trying to do is. That's not good, is it?
Oh, you'll get there.
I'll get there.
Yeah.
If you're listening and you remember what the third thing was that I've forgotten, remind me, please. As soon as we stop the recording, I'll be like,
I'll put it in the podcast notes.
Yeah, I'll be like, guys, the third thing I forgot was this. We'll wrap it up there, because it has been going for a little while now. Very different episodes, so we've got a lot of movie talking up front, because I knew it was going to change directions. But this is the talking cure. This is the cure for mental wellness. It's an ongoing thing.
Yeah.
And we probably will do more of these. So I'm not saying I do them every single week, but I have stories to tell, as I mentioned. And so I'm going to start.
Maybe it can be like James Acaster's Scrapes.
Yeah, classic scrapes.
Classic scrapes. Every once in a while, you're like, this is a classic mental health scrape.
I remember what the third thing was. It was being honest with people.
Yeah.
And when I say that, I don't mean that I lie to people. But if someone does something that upsets me, often I'll be like, all right, I won't necessarily say that's okay, because I won't forgive people for doing the wrong thing unless they apologize. But I also generally won't address it. I'll be like, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
And one thing I've been practicing is telling people how I feel. Like, no, that upset me. Like, you need to think about what you're saying.
Yeah.
So that's the other thing I'm practicing as well. I'm glad I remember that. Those are, I think, are three really important things. I think everyone needs to be able to do that. And I'm sure people listen to like, yeah, we do it. We're not you, James. Like, grow up. Not at all. Well, thank you all for listening to this very different episode of the podcast as we count down to episode 100. Thank you to you, Tina, for sitting down and talking movies and then listening to me tell a story you've heard a bunch of times already. That's about it. Next week, not sure what next week's episode will be. The week after that, we have our Q&A episode. So keep sending your questions in. I've got lots of questions, but I want more, so keep sending them in. And then the week after that is episode 100, the big radio play, which I'm very excited for. I think having finished writing that script has taken some pressure off as well.
Yeah.
Because I really wanted to get that done. But that's going to do it for this week's episode of the podcast. Thank you all again. If you want to get in touch, reach out on Instagram, slide into my DMs, as the kids say. If you have stories you want to share after hearing my story tonight, or at least part of my story, share them with us. You are very welcome to talk about how you feel. It's a very safe space. But as I say every week, guys, I was a teenage film snob, but I'm trying to be better. We'll see you next week.